Hi everyone, welcome back to Car Chat, and with me today I have Paul Stevens of Paul Stevens 911. Hi Paul.
Hi Sam. Hi everyone.
Could you just sort of give everyone a little introduction of sort of who you are and what you do, or what you do here?
Well, as you said, I'm Paul Stevens, and my business is Paul Stevens. It was named after me. I started it in 1994, so this is our 25th year, specialising in Porsche.
So you sell all sorts of cars, well, Porsches of various sorts, but how did you get into it? Presumably it was quite a long journey getting to where we are now.
Yeah, I mean, I worked for somebody else in a family business up until that time. One of the directors died suddenly, and it was a bit of a game changer. So although I thought I was possibly there for a longer period of time, it felt like the right time to move on, and to start my own thing. So I started with a mobile phone, an overdraft, and on the family farm and some cars outside, and that was pretty much how it started.
So, and then trading various things?
Buying and selling initially, just buying and selling. Got into racing them, only the little 924s. I won the 924 championship in 95.
Oh, good times.
So yeah, that was good fun, basic little car. And then also got into racing bigger things. Well, I say bigger things, started with Caterhams. I was a runner-up in a Caterham championship in 96. Then we got into British GT with Marcos in the GT3 and Porsche as well. And then into production Porsche, the Classic series. So always sort of club level, I would say, and not professional, but just always enjoyed it.
Always been a keen passion.
Yeah, just enjoyed it really. Wouldn't call it professional level. But we developed the business in the background along the way. Put up a purpose-built building there, had more of a showroom there. But as we developed further, that wasn't appropriate either. And I had my vision of auto art, that really came from, we'd had some bespoke 911s from other manufacturers also creators. And years ago, I had a Roof SCR, which was based on the old SC,
Was the SCR a turbocharged?
No, it's normally aspirated.
aspirated.
But what it taught me was that you can take a fairly stock car and put some ingredients on, just put a bit of spice into it, and suddenly the whole thing's transformed. And so it was a short stroke 3.2, which they didn't have at the time. Yeah. Revised 5-speed gearbox, limited slip diff, different brakes, nothing drastic, but just a few things that just made it a totally different car. So that sat with me, of course. And if you went further back than that, my first 100 miles an hour I achieved was behind the wheel of a 911 when I was 9.
9?
Yeah, I actually learned to drive when I was 6 on the family farm, but this was on an airfield. So these sort of experiences stayed with me to...
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
9? That's small.
Yeah, it was. You're looking more through the steering wheel. But I mean, it was a straight line, so it was a pretty safe thing to do. Yeah. But so I actually had my first 911 when I was 21. I'd set myself a goal to do this.
How what was that?
It was a little 911E, and I've still got one today. Not the same car. I did try and buy the same car back, but I found out it had been written off. So I got the nearest thing I could to it. So I just say it's similar. Very
similar spec,
it's the same spec.
Yeah.
And the same colour and everything. But to get there, I had to work my way up. So I was still at school, then I was at college. So I was buying and selling cars in the background. So I'd take them back, buy minis to start with, and then do them up, sell them. And we got into MGs, then onto TR6s, and just sort of built myself up to my first 911 that way, by buying, selling, doing them up.
At this point in time, was it just you? In the business,
this was just,
or did you have a few
that
other
wasn't
people?
even in the business. I was working for somebody else, and this was just something I did in the evenings. So this was in the 80s, really, in early 90s. So, or late 80s, in fact, for this. So then this first 911 arrived, and I knew it probably wasn't the best one. Yeah, I just didn't realise quite how bad it was. And it was rusty where they rot, and it was smoked, and had mechanical woes, and so we had to do something with it. So that was a bit of a life lesson as well, and I think I'd be probably a bit ashamed of the work we did today. But you've got to start somewhere. Yeah. So we just had to work it out. We'd got this rotten Porsche with a knackered engine, so that was it.
So what did you do with it? Did you strip it right back?
Yeah, I had to. So that was quite, and it taught me. I mean, the engineering, even though it was a horrible example, the engineering was much better than the British cars. I couldn't do the engine on my own. I brought in some help for that. Got it to a basic state, and then did some. It was my road car. Did a few rounds of the Pirelli series in '87 with it.
Okay.
So you could literally, in those days, you could turn up with your road car, on your road tyres, with your road seats. You didn't even need a roll cage if you didn't want one, and drive. So
that's amazing. Did you have like harnesses and stuff, or was it just normal seatbelt?
No, normal seatbelt. You didn't even need to have it. I mean, clearly it was recommended.
Yeah.
But I couldn't afford it. So, no, I was just there.
That's amazing.
And my only claim to fame was that I spun it at every circuit I went to, trying to keep up with everybody else. It was just really frustrating time. So,
were you racing against similar cars?
Yeah, it was a Pirelli series at the time. So I think it was Class C. It was, I mean, we were nowhere, don't worry. It was back of the grid stuff. It was, I'd raced some other things in local club motorsport and been quite successful. So it was, you're just trying to work it all out.
Yeah.
It's a bit frustrating, really. But so sold that actually to buy my first flat, which was and then worked my way up to the SCR, and that got sold to buy a house. Here we go again. But yeah, by '94 we was off and away doing our own thing anyway. So I'd had some reproduction cars of other companies, as I said, and some lightweight cars, and so I started to think about this. What could we do as a company? What can we do? And I kept looking at the 964 as a relatively modern platform. I mean, this was about 2002, so the car was 10 years old then, and it was the unloved 911. It was the 996 of the 90s. Who wanted one of those? And they were really cheap to buy. But I couldn't see, quite a modern platform then. ABS, power steering, you could have it four-wheel drive, you could have it Tiptronic, all quite modern stuff.
Yeah.
But nobody liked it. So what would it be like if you put a classic style on it? And that was more complicated than I first thought. But I have some family friends called the Walklets, and they are the founders of Ginetta. And they helped me bring the first cars about, actually, because they made cars from scratch. They looked at it totally differently, and they were able to help me develop our first cars, which we launched our retro series in 2005 at Brands Hatch at the Porsche Club event. We quickly followed that with a classic series. So we had a classic lightweight, a retro lightweight, 300R, and developed on from there.
What were some of the initial nightmare things you came across, or difficult problems to solve on, let's say, the 964? It was,
early panels don't fit the car. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
So the idea of bolting on an early bonnet, that wasn't going to work. I know now people have gone about it a different way and put early slam panels in, things like that. But my whole thing from the start was to try and retain the structure of the 964 and the integrity of the 964, the drivability. So the floor pan's physically deeper. The whole car's different. So, but it still had to drive like a proper car. That was always in the back of my mind. If putting on just a standard S spoiler, you're left with this big gap at the bottom, and it just looked awful and it wouldn't work. So right from the outset, we had to design it so that it integrated into the floor pan of the car, worked with the aero, and drove like a proper car. So that was important. So that was probably the biggest headache. Getting wheels. Fuchs didn't make wheels. Nobody made wheels for them at the time that resembled a Fuchs wheel. So I went to an English company, and they came up with a design for me, which wasn't ideal, if I'm honest. It was a three-piece billet wheel, and it looked Fuchs-inspired, but if you see them, they're pretty woeful today. But it got us got us there. And then you find out the glass is a different size and things like that. So when you're trying to put the bright work in, you think, that all fits in an SC, for example. Yeah. We'll just pop that in a 964 and it doesn't fit. Just those sort of things, really. Getting an exhaust system that worked, and then making sure it exited on the left-hand side rather than the right-hand side where the 964 exhaust exits. All just things like that. So bit of pain.
Serious headache.
Sort of over about 3 years. So although like I said, I got the donor car in 2002 for the first one, and then we did a Targa alongside it, actually, a four-wheel drive Targa. And it took us 3 years to really bring it to market.
No, it's It was funny, we were earlier walking around your showroom and we were having a look at the 964 and you were pointing out all of these little things. Like, you look at it and you go like, yeah, looks pretty good, like blah, 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 blah. And then you were talking about, like the front bumper, how on lots of them, they literally just, the bumper stops and you can see what's the 964 underneath and all of these little bits. And you suddenly get an idea of, oh, actually, this is quite a lot of work going into making it look like this.
It was more than perhaps I initially envisaged, but you'll see different conversions now, and some people do put the early bumpers on, and you'll see they look quite short, shall we say, high, disproportioned. But it was important that it was balanced. So the same with the rear bumper, we had to do the same there. And so they look identical at the top, but they're much deeper in there. Yeah. But they that makes it more cohesive with the base of the car.
So you did the 964.
And we quickly, to be honest, we had an SC in the background as well, which was gold with brown, and you couldn't sell it. Nobody wanted it. I mean, gold with brown interior now, brown Pasha, that'd be really cool, wouldn't it? But today, I mean, we just couldn't sell it.
Yeah,
so we turned that into what we called our 240C, which was pretty much had a classic RS-inspired look about it, but with the 3-litre engine instead of the 2.7. It's just meant, I mean, it had similar performance to a 2.7 RS, but, when you backdate a later car, it's always going to feel a bit more on its toes, and that was the 240C. So, and then that morphed into the Club Sport in 2007. We sort of moved on from there and into the Club Sport series, which we then changed into Series 2 in 2017 when it was 10 years old, developed it again, and that's a version of what you've been playing about with today.
I've had an extensive look around these cars with you showing me around today, and version 1 of the Club Sport versus version 2, is there a significant amount of change between those two cars?
Yeah.
Is there a lot of development and work in between?
I mean, Series 1 was really very much about a car that you could, because I used to race them, I knew what a great car, a well set up early 911 was. And, you could take it to the circuit and it'd be, as a production racer it would still be a quick car. Yeah. So if we could make a road legal version of it and then give it a bit of the earlier style and everything, it'd be a great little car. So we did that. And it was probably, it was quite raw because it had a very simple lightweight carpet set, but it had Lexan windows and it was just light and quick and and it was successful for what it was. But people slowly sort of took the Lexan windows out and put glass in. They wanted it quieter and just more civilised. And so we thought we need to revisit the concept around 2016. So we did, and launched in 2017 Series 2, which was a more rounded product and a development of and based on a later car. And
it's looking around from the outside, it just looks sort of like an old 911 of sorts. And then as soon as you get closer, we're just looking at Paul's showing me all of these different things. Like, they're just the tiny details everywhere. And you're like, oh yeah, and then we change that, and then we change that, and then we change that. And God knows the number of changes over a standard car and the process and the number of hours. But it's just all of these little bits. And then, like you were saying about the dash, like in my car, I've got an older dash in it, but I didn't realize the fit and finish of what that would look like. Or it's amazing having a showroom full of some of the old cars. You've got an SC and a 964 and stuff, and you point out some of the things on your car where you've made an entirely new dash just so that it fits a lot better. And then we can walk across the showroom and see the older car, and you suddenly go, oh yeah, okay, this is significantly different. Whereas I think a lot of people might look at the car to start with and you don't notice any of the stuff, which, talking to you, seems like that's part of your vision for the car. Is it's a bit of a sort of Q car, like understated. Yeah. If you don't know, most people wouldn't know. But then if you're a bit more nerdy about it, you start to notice all of these. Yeah.
I think, yes, that's right, Sam. But where the concept of the car comes from, I mean, Porsche makes some great cars, some really quick GT cars, very capable cars, as we all know, and they're brilliant. But on the road, they're almost there's a bit too much going on. You know, you can't access it. So I wanted to develop something from the air-cooled era that was clearly a step on from the standard car. But if you're going to it needed to appeal to the person that might step out of that modern GT car and, you know, have his first taste of classic 911s.
Yeah.
And if you're used to modern levels of fit and finish, you know, they can be a bit indifferent when you get in there. So that's why we developed all our own interior panel system. So visually, you're still sat in the same car at a glance, but then the more you look, the more you realise you're not. Nothing's the same.
Yeah.
It's all been remanufactured. And I think that's sometimes the hardest thing to get across, particularly in photography, or, you know, when we launched the Le Mans Classic Edition, you know, I think some people couldn't see quite what was involved.
Yeah.
And part of that is deliberate, but of course it's gives us a bit of a headache sometimes when you're trying to justify how many hours you put into the car. And putting in, you know, we have a range of engines to go in those cars from the standard 3.2, although we've never done one of those, to be fair, 3.4 up to 4 litre.
What do most people... Because you're making 10 of those cars.
Of the Le Mans Classic Edition,
Classic,
yeah. So that's based on our Club Sport model. It's a special edition.
Yeah.
So the Club Sport is a model. And then we're doing a Le Mans Classic Edition with Peter Also and ACO as a licensed product. And yeah, there's just 10 of those. They're predominantly all going to be similar, the same powertrain. You've tried one today. It doesn't have the same powertrain. But no, they should all be 3.4 litre.
Is that what? And that's what most people go for, the 3.4 if it's a...
Yeah,
a
I mean,
Sport.
what I find is people, when you talk to them, they always say, I must have a big engine. I must have loads of power. Must have. And you know, if you take a well-sorted 3.8, you can take it up to sort of 340, 350 horsepower. Yeah. But actually, when you're talking about a 1,000 kilogram car, or a bit less sometimes, that's the power to weight ratio's, you know, pretty phenomenal.
It's pretty punchy.
And then the torque, and actually, it's, you know, there's a market for that. But the sweet spot, I think, is around the 300 brake horsepower. So you've got 1,000 kilograms and 300 brake horsepower. Yeah. That is the sweet spot, I find, for that type of chassis. I mean, I used to race Caterhams years ago, and the same thing was with the Superlight R, 200 horsepower. That was it.
Yeah.
That was the best one.
Any more than that, I've found exactly the same thing, whether it's driving a Caterham. I drove there. They have a 310R at the moment, which is 150 horsepower, I guess. And I drove it in the wet on like a British B road, and it was a bit muddy, and that was well enough amount of power. I wouldn't want any more than that. No. But you can get the 620R, which is double the amount of horsepower.
It's too much, really. If you can't get the power down, what is the point?
Yeah.
I think that's it in any car. And I've driven a lot of Caterhams, done quite a bit of racing in them as well, and a lot of testing, and other lightweight cars as well, Ginettas, Chevrons, Lotuses and things. And that less is more things has sat with me, and that is our thing, really. Get the car as light as physically possible, and then start to add back in. And start with what you need in the car, and then bring the power in. The power's the last thing almost.
Yeah. What would you say in order of priority of things when you're thinking about making a car? Like, let's say a classic, an old 911. How do you rank all of the things?
Weight. Get the weight.
Number one.
Get rid of the weight. I mean, it has to be. You can clearly make it lighter still, but the lighter you make it, the less throwing things out the window, aren't you? So, and we're talking. And our little our Mark one was pretty light, but it was very crude and basic. You know, there's nothing in it. So there's a balance between weight and usability, isn't there? But ideally, as much weight as you can. That's the first thing, because then you've got this light platform. Well, then you don't. You know, the first thing people tend to do is stick big brakes on them, massive brakes. Let's stick some turbo brakes on. Well, they're heavy. They add weight. They add weight to the corners, makes the steering heavier. So then you need bigger wheels, and the whole thing's heavier again. Yeah. Well, then you need more power, don't you? And then the thing just feels lumpy. So why not work to the weight of the car? And if you think about it logically, even standard brakes are good enough because you've just taken off 200 kilograms. Yeah. Why do you need bigger brakes? Yeah. You've reduced the weight of the car, and you've only got to go back to that Lotus, Caterham, Chevron, any small car manufacturer mentality. You don't see massive dinner plates on those, do you? Everything is minimalised. Then you put the power in. Yeah. So that's all I've ever done with our lightweight 911s and all of our cars, actually. It's just trying to keep the whole recipe simple. So if you put big arches on, you've got to have big wheels, it's weight. It doesn't make it The
Doesn't make it
nimble,
better.
agile, can't know. And I think, today you might have experienced, you can get quite a lot of grip out of a narrow shell car.
Yeah.
With 300 horsepower and some torque.
And the sort of, I think the right amount. Like, it's very easy to get sucked into bigger wheels and then bigger tires, more grip, and all of this stuff. And then you drive it down the road where you've got a 60 mile an hour limit and you can't see around all the corners. So you can't drive faster around a corner, and it just sticks until it doesn't. And then that's a very sharp bit. And actually with, let's say, like your car's got 300 horsepower and relatively lightweight, small, nimble car, you can feel the tires working without going crazily fast, without pushing crazily hard. And you have to, I think you sort of have to experience that, or it's probably quite difficult for most people nowadays to sort of understand that mindset.
Yeah.
Because more is more, obviously, apparently.
Yeah, you just got to have big everything, haven't you? Especially when you go to America, everything's bigger. So it is a very British mindset, I think, and but if you can keep, it makes the car more agile, nimble, as you said, narrow shell, keeps it very compact on the road. Yeah. Steering's lighter. Big wheels. You don't need power steering if you've got a relatively small footprint. So then you get better steering feel. Don't need massive brakes. It's going to pull the speed down.
Yeah, it's funny. You go to a track day and you get all these modern, heavy stuff that has massive brakes that are completely fried after 3 laps. Or you watch someone with a Lotus or something like that, and then just go, okay, trim, got tiny brakes, nothing weighs anything, and they go out and pound around all day.
With minimal tyre wear.
Minimal costs, all of these things.
It's a relative, and bizarrely, I mean, you'd be amazed what it does to fuel economy. I mean, the club sports, they obviously run a modern injection system. We de-scene them, we make them quite relatively streamlined. They're economical, bizarrely.
Yeah. What sort of MPG would you get on like a long run?
Well, that one you're in today, I was driving that back the other night. It's doing 30s, early 30s, I think. There's nothing to it, it's just ambling along. So, okay, it's not modern mini hatchback economy, but
30s is good.
Yeah, I think it is for a car like that.
I think it's good for any car nowadays because we have, my S4 is a turbocharged 6-cylinder, and that might get, I think I got 35 on the way here, and they claim that that's like super economical and all that sort of stuff. You're like, well, if this old car with a petrol...
Yeah, I mean, I think it's acceptable for the type of car to get early 30s, 32, whatever it was.
I think that's pretty good.
I thought it was. But that's not really why you buy it, but it's just probably an added bonus. But obviously, if you add weight and add some turbos and add whatever else you need to make that weight go, then it's all gone, isn't it?
You build the Club Sport, and then you have the Classic Touring, which is a bit different.
Yeah, Classic Touring is very different, actually. That's another car where you really have to drill into it to understand what's going on. And it looks deliberately like an original old car. You have to now go looking to see what's not quite original. And that is deliberate. So, and I said to you earlier, I liken it to having a handmade pair of English brogues. You can go and buy a pair off the shelf and you can wear them and they're perfectly okay. And then you can go to manufacturer and have your own shoes made. They're beautifully made. And 1 or 2 people will notice that. You'll know you've got your handmade English brogues. So it's really those that know, and those that don't know don't need to know. So the nice thing about having the Classic Touring is you could pull up somewhere in it, and to the uninitiated, you're driving around in this standard classic Porsche. There's nothing about it that tells you it's any different, unless you know. And then when you start going into the detail, every part of it's been reconsidered gently. So we now have all the interior panels are our own panels. They're not original. So if you're used to modern fit and finish of a modern car, then you'll be at home in there. If you want modern seating comfort, you'll be at home in there. If you want modern connectivity, you'll be at home in there. If you want modern levels of starting and stopping and, just drivability, you'll be at home in there.
Yeah.
But when you put your foot down, turn the taps on or whatever, it feels like an old car still. It's still got that raw old car feel about it, which you know you've got with yours. So it's quite an interesting car, and it's not for the person who wants to say, look at my sports car, look what I've got, you know what I've paid for it, because you know what it is. It's not that car. It's completely the opposite. It's completely the opposite.
It's exactly that thing of the guy that debadges his RS6.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a different concept, but it's the same sort of thing of like, if you know, and for those that love the details and stuff like that, once you start looking around and you're like, oh, they did this, and then they did, and then you press this button and the bonnet's got an electric latch on it and just pops open.
In the old cars you'd have to lean across the other side to open the bonnet. Well, that just seems, if you're used to a modern car, you just want to just open the bonnet, don't you? So it's little things like that. And having 100 horsepower more than the original 911S, it's got torque, and it's just easier to drive. But when you want to crack on, it's quite deceptive. It's a bit Jekyll and Hyde, the experience, really. It can be really quite docile and unassuming, and then, quick. But, I don't know what the exact 0-6 is. We've never done it, but you can think of a low 5. Yeah.
Which is quick.
It's 200, and the 3.4 is 290 horsepower, and a 2.7 RS was 210.
Yeah.
So, with more torque. So.
And you drive a car with that amount of speed and that weight, or that power and that weight down small roads, it feels sort of right. And I've driven really fast stuff, and I've driven really slow stuff, but I never get out of like my backdate, which is probably it's a similar sort of performance, and think that's slow. All you then, I think, is it translates into you can rev it out. Yeah, you can enjoy putting your foot down for 5 seconds rather than if you've got a 720S or whatever and you put your foot down for 5 seconds, you're doing 130 miles an hour. Something ridiculous.
I think that's it. And the car, we fit a limited slip diff in the back, and we deliberately run it on 6-inch wheels all the way around. It's got more modern braking, but we run it on a 16-inch wheel so we can run a more modern tyre than the period car. And suddenly you've got enough grip. Yeah. Bizarrely, you have got enough grip, and you'll be doing quite well to unstick it, But when you do it, it's very progressive.
Yeah, I was about to say, if you had to distill down the handling characteristics of a good old 911, whether it's been tweaked or not, do you have a particular way you think it should drive?
It's an interesting one, because a good circuit car is not a good road car.
That's good.
So we predominantly make road cars.
Yeah.
Now, on club sports, it's all adjustable, so you can go to the circuit and tweak it up and whatever. But a good road car should be pretty compliant, in my opinion. So, because you've got different road surfaces to deal with. Smaller wheels for me is a big thing, because if you drive a modern car, again, you find cambers, you find holes, it's all a bit dragging you into the gutter a bit sometimes, isn't it? And if you've got this nimble, light, compliant car, it actually just glides over the bumps, and it's just, and there's a little bit of drift, and you're with it.
Yeah.
That's what I think. For me personally, that's a good road car, and that Classic Touring does that.
It is unbelievable how many modern cars you get into, like my GT3 RS or more modern stuff, and they just like hunt all the camber. You go down a country lane, and I remember when I first got my RS, and I think I had an Audi S3 or something at the same time, and I could go down a country lane significantly faster, probably, in the Audi, because it just absorbed everything. Whereas all these modern cars just hunt everything. And I remember when I first drove my backdate, went down a small little road that had loads of little bumps and whatever, and you just pointed down the road, put your foot down, and it just, you went in a straight line from one end to the other, and you're suddenly like, hang on a minute, this is way better. Why have people stopped making cars like this?
Well, this is it, really. And so that's my thing. I'm really starting to focus on the driving experience of an older car, but just more reliable and better built, and, just tighter fit and finish, and the sort of things you expect in your modern car, but applied to a classic car. That's really our our DNA of what we're doing with Auto Art. You know, I mean, it's our 15th year next year with Auto Art. You know, it's been a journey, and we've learnt a lot along the way, and had different models, and so yes, that's our next sort of thing.
Have you had some weird requests from people of things to do to cars, or slightly unusual?
We've had several, and some I've declined to build because I just don't think they fit in with our brand ethos. So we get, and usually from abroad, if I'm honest, Asian market or America, where they've seen what we do and they just say, "Can you do this? Can you do?" You know, make this big brash thing, and rightly or wrongly, I won't do it.
Yeah,
because I just don't think it fits in with who we are and what we're about. You know, that's always been important to me, that our products are, you know, well built, and you know, just to make it clear, our earlier cars were nowhere near as well built as the cars we produce today. You know, they're pretty woeful compared to what we do.
That's part of the journey, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, we've learnt a lot, and it's. I think, you know, everybody's involved in this game learns every time, you know, they build something. So it's been an ongoing development over 15 years. I keep refining the process, shall we say? But I just won't. Things I won't do is sell our parts to put on cars somewhere around the world, which we've been asked to do quite a lot. Can you just sell me the parts? No. Yeah. So, and building really random spec cars that just don't fit in with what we do, no.
Fair enough. What's the sort of the classic owners? How do they feel about your cars?
I think purists would turn their nose up at it. I mean, what was interesting was we went to the London Classic Car Show, and we had a car there. And there was somebody from the Porsche Club came up and, you know, historically sort of poo-pooed some of this stuff because they have a classic event down the road. Yeah. And said, "That's beautiful, Paul. We must have that at our next show." So I had to turn around. "You can't have that. It's not real." it's another one. But it was so, you know, it was a classic touring. So at a glance, thought it was a real. I say a real Porsche. They're all real Porsches, aren't they? But he thought he was looking at an original restored car, and he wasn't. So that probably tells you how close it got, or how close we've got to what they should look like for our classic touring, anyway. Yeah,
it's. I always find it funny when you sometimes meet people, and most reactions I get, let's say to my backdate, is most people, they like it and they want to know more about it, and then you get the odd people that's just some sort of weird nerd. And they want to tell you everything about your car in like weird ways. And I find that really odd. Like just generally, but that's just nerdy car people get to a certain level where they just want to tell you how much they know about your car, or not specifically point out things that are wrong about your car. And you're like, yeah, but so what? Like, I don't.
Yeah, you definitely get that with Porsche people. You definitely do. And, it's also quite amusing sometimes, you know, again, going back to car shows, when somebody comes up and they'll be telling their friend what they think it is. That's quite amusing sometimes. Just to listen in on that conversation. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So you've done a bit of racing, or you've done quite a lot of racing actually, and you are you've been racing in the 2 litre series.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of that and a little bit of 60s endurance. Again, it's only for fun. Yeah. We're not professionals or anything like that. I just enjoy it. Yeah. And so we're not out to, you know, it's quite a significant commitment to try and go out and win a championship, both financially and time-wise, because in the Peter Auto Series, all of those rounds are abroad. And really, you're a week out of the business, and then the testing, and then the development, and then, you know, at the front of the grid, it's pretty competitive, both with the cars and the drivers. So there's professional drivers competing in the championship, you know, some touring car drivers as well to support them, just to make sure, you know, it all happens. And so it's pretty tight knit at the front, as it can be in a one-make championship. But no, we go and do that, and the 60s Endurance Series is another grid within the Peter Auto Series, and that allows you to go and do longer events, endurance events, Le Mans Classic, that sort of thing. And that's also quite enjoyable, because it's a different strategy, you know, and you're racing with the Lands and some other lightweight cars which are clearly quicker.
Yeah.
But attrition comes into it a little bit sometimes, and so it's a bit of a tortoise and hare type thing, you know. So it's different way of racing. But no, yeah, we do enjoy it. And the short wheelbase cars, I mean, just really, really good fun to drive. Everything we've discussed about lightweight cars and nimble handling, and yeah, if you can drive, if you drive sensibly or know you can drive, they're just great.
They look, when I see them honing around at like Ricard or Spa or wherever I've been at all these Peter Otto events, they look like there's a certain level of sideways that is just got to be fun. And you see modern stuff just stick, and which is, you know, one thing, and they're on the limit, but like we're talking 1 or 2 degrees of slip rather than 10, 15.
Oh, there's a definite adjustment with these cars on the throttle, and the fact that they are short wheelbase and the fact that the engine is a little bit further out the back enhances that. So you can be attacking a corner pretty quickly, and just to get the car to adjust through the corner, you just lift slightly and the whole rear starts to move, and then you go back into it again. And beautiful steering, braking's, you know, I mean, again, not much weight. Yeah. Not much power either, but not much weight. So it's keeping the momentum going.
What sort of horsepower are those cars?
Well, it depends whose engine you've got. They will range on the grid from something like 160 up to 215, I've heard mentioned.
Oh, 215. That's quite a big difference.
I find that quite, maybe they are, maybe they're not. But certainly there's a few out there with 200 plus at the sharp end.
How do you? I don't know. I don't think I know enough about engines really, but to get that gap between, let's say, your 160 horsepower engine and your 200 horsepower engine, when fundamentally they're meant to be the same-ish? ? How do you bridge that gap?
Well, let's assume they're all legal for a minute. It is development. It is meticulous preparation, and it is just working within the regulations and just finding out how far you can push each element of the car all the way through and still remain legal. That would be your optimum. And some
and some leeway of things may not get checked.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, clearly it's a series that's developed very quickly, and they're this year, or say 220, they're looking to try and rein it back a bit. There's been because the 911 responds very well to exhaust development.
Right.
So there's been a lot of that, and it's been pretty open, and so there's been a lot of money thrown at that. Cylinder head development, pistons, all those sort of things. People have been really pushing crankcase development. And so they've tried to bring that back again for next year by standardising the exhaust system across the board, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I think, because it's that series, to me, when I see it, it looks like it's meant to be I'm not going to use the phrase entry, because that's not, it's in no way in terms of pricing an entry series, but the cars are relatively slow in comparison to a lot of stuff that competes then, and relatively simple. So you probably want to keep the costs down. You don't want to go like, okay, someone's spending some crazy amount of money a year and you just can't catch them, because that's impossible.
Well, that's it. I mean, for me, any one make championship, not just this one, to have all your engines exactly the same and your cars exactly, they're all weighed religiously, they're all power tested religiously, everything's checked religiously, closes it up. So you're going to have different talent in the drivers, that's 100%. A given, you know, and there's some quick drivers out there, very good drivers, but they don't need a quicker car as well.
If they're already 3 seconds a lap faster.
Yeah, why do they need a quicker car? So for me, and it bring preparation costs down. You know, they're starting to talk about it in Formula One as well, but bringing preparation costs, because if you start, and I wager that some are doing this, precautionary rebuilds after every race. Really, you want.
How much is a rebuild on an engine?
It's not. It's more the time, I think, Sam. And obviously, if they've not done anything with it, there's just a precautionary check down rebuild. You know, but it's a few £1,000 ago, isn't it? You know, just if you just had a bit less horsepower, and if you sealed them and said you can't rebuild that for 6 races unless you have a blow up, they would do it. The cars would last.
Yeah, and you just can't push them quite as much.
They do a season. So you might say, right, well, you're sealed for the season unless you have a problem. And then we have to revisit it or whatever, a genuine problem.
Yeah.
But if you built a sub 200 horsepower car, it would stay together for the year without any, limit the revs basically. Because it's, some of them, they will rev through to 8.5. Which
really?
Wow. It's a big ask of a little old 50-year-old engine to be doing that lap after lap,
Yeah, and I guess for some of the teams, they're selling, you're building cars for people, and if your car is at the front consistently, you're probably going to sell more cars because people will be like, well, if I buy it from you, it's going to be at the front. Yeah. And if you have a team of people building these cars all day long, to have your one car that you are pushing to come back and get stripped and checked and all that sort of stuff, it's part of the business model. But for most people who are just a gentleman driver or two mates or whatever doing this, you just don't really want that.
No.
Like, I've done a bunch of single make stuff, whether occasionally I raced in a Radical, but recently I've been doing a lot of Citroen C1 racing. And those cars the engines get dynoed, they get sealed, you can't do anything to them. They're all pretty much the same. And then at Spa this year, the team that won had basically just broken all the rules.
Right.
And you get to the end and they got disqualified because their engine had another 20 horsepower. And it probably wasn't that much, but all of the factors, you'd be going down the straight and they would just you'd catch up on them and then they would just pull away and all this sort of stuff. And then you're like, why? Why are you doing this? It's not Formula One. You're not winning some massive prize at the end.
And who are you kidding?
And when everyone finds out, you'd go from there's that guy, Tony or whatever, to that arsehole, Tony, who's cheated.
Yeah.
To win something that doesn't matter.
And
I'm not saying people are cheating in the 2 litres.
No, and we've been asked to give a bit of feedback, and it's because of my one make experience. I think the nearer you can bring the cars together, the better racing you're going to have. And
100%.
Don't get me wrong, there's been some very close racing at the front, and there's been some close racing in the middle, and there's been some close racing at the back. But a circuit like Spa over the lap, that can be sort of 15 seconds apart. It's if you could bring it all a bit more together.
Yeah, if you were.
So somebody at the front had a little bit of bad luck. Say they, went off or whatever, and they're back on. And I know it's unlikely, but somebody a bit further back can have a bit of a go with it. Caterham racing, and if you've done it with Radicals, I suspect it's the same. Caterham racing is frenetic, and if I've raced road sports and R400s and things, and it's just frenetic. It's absolutely brilliant. But it's brilliant because the race, they're like flying bricks, and you're relying on a draft or, break. And if you're leading the race on the last lap, you're probably not going to win it. It's so, the strategy and it's fantastic. And the 911s responds to that a little bit as well. If you are close enough to somebody, you can draft up and pull yourself alongside or past or whatever. So they do respond to that. So if you could just bring them all a bit closer together, so one missed gear change took you back on the bumper again, and you would. For me personally, anyway, that would.
It's so much more fun.
Yeah, that would really enhance it. So I've kind of put my views, but everybody's got an opinion, and that's only my opinion.
Yeah,
not and other people have their opinion about it.
It'll get worked out because I know with with my Radical at the moment, I've literally just changed the engine or the spec of the engine, but they updated it 2 years ago. And the car's got a little bit quicker. And I hadn't done many hours on my engine, so I was like, I'm not going to do it. But I sort of wish I'd done it straight away, because every time I've raced since, in the back of my mind is a little I know they've got another 5 horsepower or something, or, a bit more, 20 foot-pound more torque or something. So that if someone's faster than you, and there's people that are, loads of people that are faster than me, but there are people that are slower than me. And I don't like the fact that I can be driving better. It's not even necessarily that I'm driving better or faster than someone. In the back of my mind, I know that their car might be faster, and that might be why they're getting away. And I hated having that in my head as an excuse. The idea that it's not your driving, and you have this excuse to then come back and be like, if I had another 20 horsepower.
Well, that is the other thing, isn't it? If you're all the same, there's nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
You've just got a lack of talent if you didn't do it.
Exactly. And you have to own up to that pretty quickly.
You know, and I'm very real about my driving ability, and I'm okay behind the wheel, but there's quicker people than me. But if we all had exactly the same car, it would make it a lot more. And to be fair, there's been some great racing through the grid, but it gets very quickly spaced out, which it potentially, a Caterham grid like that would still be bunched up half an hour later, right?
Yeah,
nose to tail.
Even though the top 10 are way faster than everyone else or whatever, they're only a second a lap or whatever.
It wouldn't take much to be back with them again. You could let your tyres cool. Say your tyres have gone off, for example. Yeah. If you've overdriven, you could just cool off for a couple of laps. Let it all calm down again, and you could be back having another go.
Yeah.
That's
something I love about go-karting, for example. Like, I'm not particularly good at go-karting, but I give it a go every now and then. And you can spin, and then you can catch up with people and have another race. Whereas in some series, if you're not flat out on it, this is also when you've got pro drivers who are just so quick they're not necessarily outright lap speed faster, but they're faster from the word
they're
go.
Just consistent.
Like the first 5 laps, they're on it, and everyone else.
And you're never, to be fair, you're never going to compete with those guys unless you're super talented. And there's guys in that championship that are in a seat every day of the week doing something. So it's just another car to drive, and that's their thing. And you short of super talent, you're not going to be there.
Yeah.
I don't think most of us really expect to be there either. We just want to go out and have some fun. But they're cool little cars to drive, as a summary.
How would you describe the way they, like a well set up 2-litre car, handles compared to?
Lighter than the later cars. Steering's, because of that weight in the rear, it actually just makes the steering more delicate. It's really bad. So you really do balance it on the throttle much more than the later cars. And steering input's actually quite low in comparison.
Yeah. It's funny, when I remember the first time I watched, who was it? Ollie Bryant?
Yeah, Ollie's quick in one. Yeah.
It was one of his, it was like a pole lap or something. And you just watch it and you're like, that's when you know something's really quick. You're like, that doesn't look that fast. Like there's no like erratic steering or anything. No. Or you can watch, I can't remember when it was, a while ago. There's a guy doing a lap around Spa. And it wasn't in the 2-litre cup or something, but it's in the 911.
Pascal Pandolin.
Yeah, just like fully lit the entire time.
Pascal is, flamboyant racer, we call him. He is quick though. He is quick.
Oh, definitely quick.
And a Spa Meister. That is his home circuit, but genuinely quick as well. So, but that just shows how far you can take one and still be in the game.
Yeah.
So Pascal would be at the sharp end of the grid as well.
Yeah.
Ollie's a professional driver. So, being that, and then he probably jumps in a GT40 or something and then jumps in something else. And so that's, he's a professional driver. So, he will be quick consistently. Yeah.
Have you driven any other cars that would race at that event?
No,
any of the quicker Porsches or anything?
No, it'd be nice to, but no, I haven't at the moment. Yeah. But, it's... Some of the RS, 3-litre RSR would be quite
3-litre RSR, look.
Yeah.
When I first went, I've always had a thing for 2.8 RSR.
Yeah.
It's a bit like it fits well on the road as well as on the track. And then the more time I've spent at the track at these events, you just get drawn into the bigger, wider stuff, and you think, 3-litre. But then part of me goes, as soon as you then go up to whatever, like 935s and stuff, they don't. From my viewpoint as a photographer on the side of the track or whatever, they don't look like they're that lively in terms of driving style, because they just look like they've got so much grip. Yeah,
I've driven high-powered turbo race-derived cars, 911s, and it is very much... The power is when you get going down the straight.
Yeah.
The cornering speeds aren't necessarily massively greater.
Yeah.
And... it does become a bit of a point and squirt machine. Whereas the 2-litre going completely back the other way, and that less is more thing, you've got to carry the speed. So entry points are critical. Everything's critical just to keep the thing rolling. And that's the enjoyment, I think. You're just carrying the speed. But that's the same all the way through the normally aspirated cars, and even up to the RSR. I know they've got bigger wheels and bigger everything.
Yeah.
But you've still got to carry that speed to keep it all going.
Yeah.
and they move around. I mean, I like cars that move around. So
Well, moving around is more fun.
yeah, that's my, things that just stick like that, and the next stage is, where is it? I like progressive oversteer, progressively moving cars. So a nicely balanced car is important. And with the 911s, you can set them up to be quite pointy on the road. Ultimately, I think that makes quite a nervous car on the edge. So we tend to not do that with our road cars. They have they'll turn in, but not, you could make that turn in sharper, for example.
Yeah, like a little bit of understeer, but not like...
Because then you can go in on a trailing throttle with it, and you can push through it and have the whole thing working with you then. Whereas if you've got that bite, and it might just upset the rear.
Yeah, that was something when it was like first sort of country blast in my car and going down a bumpy little road. Actually having that little bit of understeer, or like a bit of understeer if you're sort of on it, just gives you a bit of like breather space that you're not going to suddenly like. But
you can temper that with your right foot.
Exactly.
So you can arrive, you race. So you can arrive on the brakes. You can turn in, and you can have the rear moving and back on it. So you can literally switch it in the middle and back on, and that's a trait of the 911. But once you've mastered that, people who say they don't handle well, I don't think they truly understand what they're about. And I appreciate you have to learn how to drive them. And I said earlier about me spinning my car over every race circuit I went to. I just clearly, I've driven Ginettas and Lotuses and things, and they handle so differently. And you've got to master the car. Yeah. But then I think that's part of the enjoyment.
That's part of the fun. Yeah, I do think you get in a car, and it's definitely why I keep getting drawn to 911s and stuff. Is when you see someone drive, whether it's an old one or a new one. The new ones are getting less so, but like on the limit, pushing it, that requires a lot of skill, like to drive it properly. And I have, like with my RS, we was on a bit of a road trip, and a friend had the same car, and I was like sliding a little bit and just like a little bit on the exit of corners and stuff, and he was like, my car's just stuck the entire time. And it was just like, well, yes, but that means you need to upset it in the corner, before the corner, all this other stuff. Whereas if you just have a mid-engine car with a decent amount of horsepower, let's say like a 458 or something, you can put your foot down anytime and you can get that drifty feeling.
Yeah.
But winding back, when I first took my backdate on the track, in my head I've got these images of heroic slides out of all the corners, and you realise that, okay, there's a lot I need to learn about driving this car to make it exit a corner like that, because otherwise it's got so much grip and not tons of power that to unstick it requires a lot of driving.
You need to be pushing it. You need to push it into that situation invariably.
And learn how to... throughout the day, I got better at trailing it in and braking, starting to get it braking on the way in, and then you can layer it on the way out. But it was a really fun learning experience.
No, you very much use the rear of the car to steer it. I mean, it's quite an alien experience to start with, but once you've got used to it, mastered it, whatever, it's fantastic, because there's really not much of an excuse for not going around the corner. You can just adjust it. If the line's tightening up, you can just adjust it. Yeah,
it's all good fun. If you had to take any car for like a little country drive, half an hour, what would it be? If it was a 911, what would it be?
So the Achilles heel of the 2-litre short wheelbase 911 FIA cars is the carburetors and the cams. So there's quite a flat spot within that, and they need to be milked the whole time to get the most out of them. So if I could take off that and put on modern fuel injection and drivability, and that's it. It's mega. It will be mega. Yeah.
So a sort of old short wheelbase, lightweight, skinny tyres.
Yeah.
But just with a bit more drivability.
Just so you don't... I mean, you have to drive around the traits of the car. It's just what they are. But if you didn't have to do that, and you could have that continuous power delivery, smoothness, reliability, But with the actual handling and feel and drama of 2 litre, give me that over an RS any day.
Nice.
Seriously,
Nice.
yeah.
You hear that? I've heard that a few times
Yeah.
from people. I think Richard Tuttle is.
Okay, yeah, Rich.
I remember him saying a similar sort of thing. He was like, "No, lose the arches, lose all the grip.
Yeah,
More."
Yeah.
Have you ever taken a car or been on the snow on ice?
Not been on any ice driving. No, not. I mean, yes, I've been on the snow. Yes, I've been on the loose. I mean, I did a lot of autocross at local level when I was growing up. So spent a lot of time sideways when I was younger.
That's good.
But professionally, no. In a professional environment, no. And it's quite interesting. You know, some of the guys, again, going back to that series, you find out they've been off having a bit of winter training, and they've been in simulators. I mean, I rang up one chap one day, and his secretary said, "Oh, no, he's not here today. He's up at Silverstone having simulator."
Having a bit of sim time, yeah.
Yeah, for a 2 litre Porsche race. I think, well, it's all getting a bit serious, isn't it?
Well, it's a lot cheaper to repair it in a sim than.
Well, yeah, maybe it is. Yeah. But it kind of takes. I don't know. I get it, but I also think, wouldn't it be better if you just took some of this technology away from you again? And this, you know, wouldn't it be better if you just arrived at the circuit and you haven't been to the circuit before? You've had minimal seat time. You just got to work it out.
Yeah.
You know, and it's down to you, the driver. You're all on the same tyres, same brakes, same power, same weight, same everything. It's just you.
But you say that, but it's never just that, because let's say you're removing these extra hours. There's going to be people that might have raced there 5 times before.
Yeah. Okay. So you're going to have that.
So you're just narrowing the gap to them.
I'm just trying to think of the situation where you bring the gap, because it just makes better racing at the end of the day. The closer you can bring everybody together.
Yeah, definitely.
In any championship, not just this one, the better the racing, the better the spectacle, the better, you know. I mean, if they're going around bumper to bumper, door handle to door handle, I mean, you only need to go to Goodwood and watch some of the racing there, you know. They do, you know, some cracking
gets close,
racing. Yeah, that's what you actually want.
Yeah,
you know, when you're just 3 or 4 of you having a go and it's... Right, okay.
Yeah, exactly. You see some of the onboarder, you know, you're going around a corner and you're on the edge, but you're on the inside and you're like, I've got about 3 inches, 2 inches between my car and theirs.
Yeah, and
if I stuff it, this is going to be bad. But I didn't, and we're good.
So for me, that is any form of racing, but particularly classic. I mean, if you could race pretty closely and, you know, safely and bigger entertainment value all the way around, I think.
Yeah. I asked my audience, people, whatever, Instagram followers, if they had any questions for you, because I was coming on today, and had a few. Do you think it's sacrilegious that 964s get ripped apart to make builds, or in your case, 3.2 Carreras?
Okay, yes, in short. So when we launched our 964 idea back in 2005, there were a lot more cars about, and a donor car was 7 or 8k, and the best one in the world was 20k. But the problem with the 964 was they had oil leaks and they had all the problems, and people with a 7 to 10 grand 911 just wouldn't spend the money, because when they've got that to spend on a car, they haven't got another 10 to spend on it. So they tended to be poorly maintained and needing work and money. So at that time, I didn't see a problem in messing about with scruffy 964s, because you couldn't make it into a nice one for 20 grand. Do you see what I mean? So today, I mean, we don't cut up what I call nice cars. We just don't do it. If it's a nice, really nice, genuine car, no, wouldn't do it. 3.2s, you know, we generally, I can show you some outside. We'll start with rotten, nasty.
Yeah, I saw one outside. There was definitely a few holes in it.
Yeah, and, you know, if you took a rotten one and you were trying to make it into a nice one, financially it's just not viable.
Yeah.
It costs so much money to
just
get
nice
rid of
one.
all of that properly. So, no, we don't carve up nice examples. Wouldn't do it. If I don't think it can be saved and turned into a genuine car, that's the car I would use.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
So that's my answer. Not ideal, is it? But if you're a fan of a 3.2 or a 964, but
you wouldn't cut up a good example to make one,
No.
you start with something that's kind of useless apart from what you want to use it for.
Yeah, and I've genuinely turned cars away where people have said, "Can you convert this?" No.
Fair enough.
Won't do it.
Someone said, do you have any Le Mans Classic build slots left?
No.
No, sold out. Sorry, guys. You could come and get, presumably, you could get one of the other ones, no problem.
Yes. I can't build one straight away, but yeah, we can.
What's your lead time on if someone wants to come and get a...
Well, we've got that program to get out of the way, plus some other stuff. So really, we're not in a position to build anything till 21.
Okay, so a bit of time.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody was genuinely interested in a car, they need to come and talk to us, and we're working into a program. But yeah, you couldn't just come and have one now.
Yeah, in 6 months or whatever.
No.
You're pretty
Unless somebody
busy.
decides they don't want to go ahead with a build slot or something because they come, maybe that will happen. It's happened on one car already. I can tell you, so we've replaced it with somebody else has taken that slot. So that could happen.
There is scope.
Potentially that could happen, but other than that, no.
But yeah, you're pretty busy and pretty full up. Do you have a favourite 911 generation?
Yes.
What is it?
If you'd have asked me
What car?
10 years ago, it wouldn't be this car, but it is the 2 litre.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it takes me back to, it's where it started. It's the purest experience of the car, of the air-cooled era. And if you go back to any sort of general design, whatever it is, if you actually analyse it, usually the first one is the best.
Yeah.
And you modify it because people didn't find it comfortable, people didn't find it fast enough, people didn't find it big enough, whatever they do. Think of Aston Martins, DB4, DB5, it went into the 6, didn't it? Because it wasn't big. Anything just to analyse it, generally speaking, the first design is the purest.
The most distilled version.
And it might come with traits, but we're not talking about an everyday car, are we?
No, it's just... Yeah, whichever one. And has that been specifically since you've started racing it again?
Yeah, I think so. Understanding that era of the car, the later cars are much easier to drive.
That's part of the fun.
Where's the fun in that?
Yeah, exactly. Are there any tracks that you go to that you sort of think, this has got a bit too many straights? Do they feel particularly slow anywhere or not too bad?
It's funny. People. I feel privileged that I've raced at Le Mans. Really, when it's sort of like a boyhood dream, and I've been fortunate enough to relive it, and an awful lot of other people haven't. Some people take it for granted. I certainly didn't. There's some long straights there for the 2 litre car. Recar the other day, it's some long straights there. Look. The optimum for your straight is when your car's reaching maximum RPM in top gear, isn't it? So there aren't many circuits, if you actually think about that statement, where you achieve that. Le Mans is one of them.
Really, yeah.
So you either gear your car to be great around the rest of the circuit and then you're just hanging on for dear life going down the back, or you gear it to go down the back straight and then it's a bit compromised. That's the one circuit I can think of where you make a decision about where you're going to gear your car, a small engine car anyway.
At Ricard, did they have the chicane?
For the 2 litres they did. Yeah. For the group season, no, they let them go.
And what sort of speeds are you doing? Well,
we were just about getting to. They're not fast, those 2 litre cars. About 140 miles about your lot. But yeah, obviously the group season, bang, straight down.
Hammering down.
And funny enough, I went there racing Caterhams years ago because I did some endurance racing in Caterhams in Europe, and they used to let us.
Yeah,
we went all the way down. So in a Caterham, that's a tow.
Yeah,
it's not one tow. It's like it's two or three going down. Yeah. It's like, by the time we get to the end, who was going in first? Yeah. So your optimum straight for me is just when you've reached the max.
Yeah. And it's quite funny because I guess at the end of that straight, it's probably not much of a break for that corner because it's just a big sweeping.
Oh, at the Ricard?
At Ricard, yeah.
No. That's, even in those little cars, it's just really a lift and a turn and in.
Yeah.
Just maybe a dab on the brakes. It depends what's
going on.
Yeah.
And the final one from people, what sort of weight reduction are you able to do? Do you do a lot of weight? We were sort of talking about this earlier, actually. But.
Yeah. Well, clearly, the more you take out, the lighter it gets. But you get to a point in the road where say, well, I need a heater.
Yeah.
I need some windows.
Yeah.
So you start to add bits in. But if you took, obviously, the lightest car, or the lightest car you could build, it probably starts with a short wheelbase.
Yeah.
You could get that down to a notional 800 with, 790, 800. Bizarrely, it wouldn't be FIA compliant.
Yeah.
They homologate them at 1,002. So they're quite heavy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that'd be about as light as I think you'd get one down to.
But with your road cars?
Right, so it's a fight to get one down to 970 where you've got it habitable.
Yeah.
In a bigger car. So we've got a longer wheelbase for starting with. I know dimensionally it's the same, but you're bigger footprint, so you're on bigger wheels and bigger brakes, all those things I was saying, but we've got bigger power, haven't we? We've got another 100 horsepower to play with, so we need... But manual windows reduce the weight, no central locking, no sunroof, thinner glass, you just go through it and you just... Luggage area, how can you save weight in there? The one you've driven today has a full luggage installation system, doesn't it? And tools, all back, it adds weight. So get rid of that. Aluminium panels, all those things just reduce weight.
Yeah. And your cars are, all the panels are they original? Different cars have different stuff, right? 100%. The Classic Touring is original. Are they original 70s panels?
Yeah, so that car features all original Porsche panels. And it's not, and a full interior system. And frankly, that's probably not I've never actually weighed one, but it's probably not any lighter than an original car.
Pretty standard, yeah.
It's got to be about the same, isn't it? Club sports we can get down, we do put those on a bit of a diet, and as you know, we can get those down to 970 dry, which is a bit of a fight, but we can get it there. So we're fitting, it's an RS in period had a steel bonnet, we get a bit from an aluminium bonnet. Our ducktails are very slightly lighter. Putting in the thinner glass, and I know the genuine lightweights had kind of like thin glass, 960 kilograms. But we just chip away at it.
Little bits.
Yeah.
Here and there. Yeah. No, it's they're pretty cool things.
Our dashboards are lighter. Than the originals.
Yeah.
Our door panels are lighter. The door top.
Yeah.
All of those are lighter.
So I imagine most stuff, if you're redesigning it sort of from scratch or making it new now, you can make it lighter.
Yeah, knee rolls are lighter.
Better materials and everything.
Yeah, there's weight to be... We do save weight there.
Right. I normally wrap up these podcasts with 5 questions.
Okay.
So...
Here we go.
Here we go. Do you have a most memorable driving trip or journey that stand out?
Probably racing at Alton Park, having a podium finish in my 911 and thinking, I've still got time to jump in the car and drive to Le Mans. Because it was a bit of a debate whether we could do... And so I was just, are we going to do it? Aren't we going to do it? We're doing it.
We're doing it.
So we just bowled into, and believe it or not, that was it wasn't a genuine 73 RS.
Yeah.
Left drive one, Swiss one. And we bowled down there, and we got down there. I can't remember now, Sam. It was early hours of the morning.
Yeah.
Mates were down there all drinking. So yeah, that was probably it.
That's quite fun. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Doing out podium and then smashing down to France.
Yeah.
Right, next question. 5-car garage, unlimited value.
Oh dear, that's hard. That is hard. I'm all about this driving experience. This less is more driving experience. That's it for me. So big, modern, powerful.
They don't do it.
Do it for your cars. Don't do it for me. Mm-hmm. So I've got to start with. Most of my cars are going to be. I've got to have a 2-litre, haven't I? Yeah. An FIA car. I've probably got to have a Club Sport because we built the bloody thing. and I know why we built it and I know what it stands for, and it's a great road car. I quite like the 1970 22S.
Right.
With the 901 box and the S engine. I quite like that. If I'm going water-cooled, I've probably got to have a 996 GT3 first off, or possibly an RS. Yeah. Possibly an RS, but certainly an analogue. The further up you go, and of course they got quicker, but actually, it's still. I feel you can get into that car, and I guess you got to have a Carrera GT because Why,
Because,
why
yeah.
wouldn't you? Yeah, yeah.
Have you ever driven one?
Once.
Good.
I know some people got them a bit, but it's a bit of a weapon, really.
Yeah, it's on my. I've spoken to a lot of people that have a serious car collections and have driven a lot of stuff, and all of them have Carrera GT in like top 5 all time. They're just like, it's mega. And I haven't
It's
been able to drive
different.
one
It's
yet.
just very different to anything they've ever done, and can probably do in the future. Frankly, it is.
End of
It's
an era.
another analog feel. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Right. If you could only drive one car for the rest of your life, and you're allowed like a £500 banger to family or whatever, what would it be?
Well, I think the 911 does tick an awful lot of boxes.
Yeah.
So, but it would have to be air cooled. It would have to be 250, 260 horsepower. It needs to have that power to grip to weight ratio.
Right.
So
Balance.
it doesn't need to be a particularly valuable one, but something I can get in the morning, turn the key, it always starts, performs reliably, and just gives you that smile when you go to work in the morning because you've had a bit of a
Yeah.
go with it. That's the car. And where does that sit? That probably sits in a slightly modded car. It probably isn't so far away from what you've got, to be fair, is it?
Something like that.
Yeah. It ticks so many boxes if you're a driver. And yet they're practical enough.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, it's not a Volvo estate, is it? But
You can get a lot of stuff,
You can get a lot of stuff in them. With our club sports, with our luggage system and stuff, you're amazed what you can get in those cars.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, and I've driven all sorts of things over the years, but I always get out of other cars thinking, okay, so that was quicker in a straight line. That sounded awesome. That's really nimble. But there's always a but.
Yeah.
The 911, for me, it just does so much.
It does.
It does so much. So, a Lotus is clearly going to be more agile, or a Genetic, or anything like that. They're all more agile.
Yeah.
And a Ferrari's just got, more presence and there's some awesome cars, and you've got one as well, and there's some truly awesome. But actually, if you just think, well, am I going to drive that? Am I just going to jump in that car? There you go. Are you going to just jump in that car and drive it wherever?
Yeah.
Could you just go and park it in the car park?
Without stressing out.
You couldn't, could you?
No.
What you want is a slightly beaten up 911 that you can just park up and somebody's put a dent in the door and you think, oh, no, whatever. And then drive off in it again and go and have a blast down the road.
And it's not a carbon panel that you've just smashed or whatever.
And you're giving it a good pasting and you're not worried about, am I about to get an engine rebuild on my hands or whatever, or a clutch come out of, that's it, isn't it? That's what they're all about. They're durable. They're just,
They are just really good.
Yeah. So it's it all goes back to, why did you start this business? Why did I start? It's just a passion thing, really. And it was just purely by driving them. And it sort of took me into a whole world of where I am now, really.
What's the most undervalued car you can think of at the moment? That's either like cracking value or it should be worth more.
Are we talking Porsche?
Anything.
I'll generalise that by saying when a supercar. So think about Audi R8s for a minute. Mm-hmm. Think about AM V8s. Think about slightly unfashionable 911s. Just when they're unfashionable, that's the time to look.
Yeah.
Because they're actually still great cars, aren't they?
Yeah.
You think if you look hard enough, you can pick up an R8 for 30 grand.
Yeah, which is
think about that.
Crazy.
Manual, all that drama going on in the back.
Yeah.
And
phenomenal engine.
That's
great gearbox.
That's quite a car, isn't it, for that?
Yeah.
And we've had 911s down there, and you just suddenly look at them and think, why?
Yeah.
Why? And so it's that genre of car, when it gets to a point in the road, we just think that is so ridiculously cheap.
Yeah.
For what it is. So it isn't just one car, I don't think. It's just
a category of
you'll
sort of slightly unloved cars at the time.
You'll wake up one morning and you open up the mag or go on the internet or whatever, and you think that looks, and it always happens.
Yeah,
it always happens.
Yeah, they always hit the bottom, and it's all cars do it.
I mean, McLarens, you know where they're going.
Yeah,
there's going to be a point where you think, I've just got to have one.
There's going to be a point when like a 12C or something. Now that's a very expensive ownership proposition, but it's going to get down to like 40 grand or something.
And you suddenly think, really?
Yeah, this is a spaceship.
Am I not going to buy that car? Because it's still a supercar at the end of the day, isn't it? So that is the type of car I'm talking about. When you just look at it, that's ridiculously cheap.
Yeah. There's certain cars that I look at and I'm watching. F12 is one of them. Like they are going down and down and down. And at some point in time, they're going to go under 100. It's going to happen.
No, they will do.
And then you go, it's a V12, pretty modern, pretty reliable Ferrari. And you're like, wow. But there's, like you said, like an R8 for 30. Like, what? That was a spaceship when it came out. It's like a game-changing car when it came out.
I made a mistake because I had a 996 RS when it was new. Did what everybody else did, drove it 6 months and sold it. And then I said, I'll dip back in again when they get below 50k. And I bought a white one with blue decals for a reasonable number. I won't say what it was. And that was going to be a keeper. And then it sat there and somebody came along one day and said, look, I've really been looking for a white with blue. Yeah. Will you sell it? Blah, blah, blah. I want to pay this for it. Well, unfortunately, being a dealer, you sort of think, okay, I'll find another one, which I never did. But think about that. This was a 40-something grand 996 RS. Yeah. Should have kept that. I had a similar sort of thing. I didn't know at the time that it was going to be the bottom, but when I bought my 997 RS, that was the bottom. I bought it at the bottom, but at the time it was expensive. Yeah. And they then doubled over 2 years. And, and now we're down a little bit, but I'm up in that car. And it's one of those ones where I sort of feel like I should get rid of it because I don't use it that much, but I love it as a car. It's a great car. It's that value's never really going to go down now, I don't think. No. And I think the way to look at it is with that type of car, and I'm saying this to anybody, and whatever you paid for it, that's actually what it's worth to you, isn't it? Yeah. And what do you buy for that? Well, that's whatever that number was. And that is, it's probably a phenomenal car for that money. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. When some people come talk about now, like, oh, I was thinking about, like the new Boxster Spider or a GT4 or something. And a GT4 is 80 grand, 75, 80 grand, something like that. I paid 92 or something for my RS. And I'm like, okay, hang on a minute. Like, at no point in time should I ever sell that RS and buy a GT4, for example, because it's just a completely different category of car. Yeah. You've still got a 3.8 RS, haven't you? Yeah. When all said and done. And own you a sub 100 grand. So you've got a car that, why would you sell it? And I mean, going back to what we were saying earlier, it's probably a bit of a stretch to wind one of those up on the road, but it's a fantastic circuit car. It is actually just about on the edge. Like, okay, you can't push it too much on the road, but it's still involving. As soon as you go to 991 generation, like, they're just not. They're too good. Yeah. Yeah. Great on track, but too good. Yeah, and I think that's it. Whatever you're driving, I mean, you want to be able to get to the edge. Well, I do anyway. I want to be able to get to the edge of the car's ability, and I suppose that's why I prefer older cars. Yeah. Because I know, if you're trying to get the edge of a current car, you are driving it insanely fast, and you're not going to be doing that on the road if you've got any sense. The forces have to be so high. So then you have to go to a circuit, and then you have to be driving it that much faster. And then, we've taken old air-cooled 911s along with modern ones with, with colleagues and or customers, should I say. And, we've all got out at the end of the day and said, the old stuff's really, you're having loads more fun. Fun is what you want, isn't it? It was fun. And once you get over that thing of speed. Yeah. And speed is fun for a week. And then it becomes a corner thing. And actually, like, I've done a bit of racing in, like the C1s, or I've done a bit of MX-5 and stuff like that. And people go, but they're not really slow. I'm like, well, they're slow, but you're trying to get the toe down the straight. And like with the C1 stuff, there's like 150 cars on track. Like, you're battling people the entire time. Yeah. It doesn't feel slow when you're sliding all four wheels round Pulon at 110 or whatever. It's not slow. No, exactly. I was in a 720S the other day, a couple of months ago, at Goodwood. You go round and suddenly you're doing 155 miles an hour, just round measuring, and then you go and forward. And then you're down to the backstretch 175 miles an hour. And it's ridiculous. And then it just breaks and you go around the corner and then off you go again.
Yeah.
How much? And you set your drift control and okay. And it was insanely fast, to be honest. The car was incredible, but you needed to. The next step for me, I got out of it, and it clearly wasn't my car; it was a customer's car. But I got out of it and thinking, the next step. Do you want to find out what the next step is on Goodwood?
No. And not when you're pushing the braking and you're doing 100, maybe 80.
Yeah, it's 155 round the first part and 175 down the back straight. It was just nuts.
Yeah. And the forces, like, you just don't want to... Goodwood is a sketchy circuit at the best of times. And you get in these fast things. I don't know how they do it. Like, I've had a few different coaches, and some of them do, like, the pure McLaren days.
Yeah.
And they might get in with someone who's just bought a 720S or a P1 GTR or something ludicrously fast at Spa. And they just sit there in the passenger seat and they go around coaching this person who this may be their first rear-wheel drive car. And they're still going to be doing 170 whatever down the straight. Yeah. But you've only got a seatbelt and an airbag. If something goes wrong,
the car was immensely capable. And, I've raced with somebody who does a lot of test driving with McLaren, and, he's a great driver and takes them over and beyond regularly. And so you can do it, but I think you need to go and take that initially anyway, in a very open space to find where that is. Because I wasn't ready to take that over that edge around there at that speed. Yeah. And
I think I heard one story. This guy, he was passengering, instructing someone, and the ABS sensor, there was like some sort of sensor and a bit of rubber, like pickup, went over this sensor and killed it. And it killed the ABS on the car. Or maybe it killed the traction control, something like that.
Right, okay.
And just like halfway around the corner, the guy just mashed his foot or whatever, the car steps out, it doesn't save him this time round. And the instructor's like, no, as he sees this guy correct like the wrong way or something. She's like, dives across the car, like pushes the steering wheel, like, go that way, and managed to avoid ending up in a wall. But you're going quite fast in some of those cars.
That's the problem, isn't it? I mean, you're not doing this side of 100 miles an hour. You can be approaching 200 miles an hour.
Yeah,
it's scary.
I had an interesting talk with someone. It was at Ricard, and they used to race LMP2, a gentleman driver, and he stopped because he's like, the cars, they were really fast, but they started to get really, really, really fast. And if you're a gentleman driver and you're not a professional driver, you can be at a very high level, but there's a certain point in time where you're going to make, people make mistakes.
Yeah.
And the difference of hitting a wall at like 190 versus 140 or something is like significant.
Yeah. And you got to be very fit to withstand all of that.
The G-force and racing at night and whatever, all that stuff. It's crazy. All right, final question. What's the most interesting car to you at the moment? Like you find yourself like Googling or looking up or found?
Crikey, what is that car? That is an interesting question. I suppose I'm always, and it's probably the world that I'm in. I'm always looking at the ultimate development of what we're doing. I suppose. So I'm again, it's probably a general air-cooled look. What are people doing? How can we improve what we're doing? I'm not, as I've got older, I used to be really into modern cars.
Yeah.
When I was younger. Loved the latest thing. I've almost got an anti-latest thing at the moment.
Where did that latest thing stop?
Where
what
did
sort
it
of time
stop?
period? Yeah.
I think it probably around 2010, 12, I don't know. I'm trying to think back. My thing, I always used to, whatever it was, I had to get in it and drive it as fast as it would go.
Yeah.
Okay, that was it.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. Maybe it hasn't changed too much now. So the problem is the cars just go quicker and quicker and quicker. And then we've had this conversation, but they get, unless you're right on the edge of it all, they get less involving. So my thing is always, how do we make this ultimate driving experience accessible at relatively sane levels?
Yeah.
And that's my thing. So I'm always looking at how can I bring that into what we're doing today. I want people to get into our cars and really engage with what we're doing and really get that driving buzz and fix that we all actually want in a cool package.
Yeah. So looking at what's going on and how do you progress?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the more people I think get to experience. I think specifically, really, people that are in the modern car world, they don't get much. If you're in the classic car world, you get it. Like, you get this old car thing and all of that, and people end up driving pre-war cars and all that sort of thing. But I found with my car, the backdate, I've been on road trips. We did one to Sweden and in the winter and drove around in the snow and did all sorts of stuff. And loads of people turned up in really, really modern supercar type things. And at the beginning, they're like, "Well, I don't get this. This is awful. Like, why would you? Why? First of all, they just didn't understand. Like, why would you bring that car? It's going to be awful. It's going to break down. It didn't break down. It was phenomenal. It actually had more grip on like winter tires than a lot of these cars had. Like a modern BMW on studded tires, and took them out in the passenger seat when we went around this ice track and stuff. And suddenly you get it. People are like, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, it's being able to feel
Exactly
what is going on.
Exactly, and hear it. I mean, your car will have a fantastic induction noise, got fantastic
really
exhaust noise. Yeah, a modern one, you've got to push a button to get some of that.
You've got to press a button to get some more pops.
Yeah, you've got to turn a little knob to get some drift going. What's that all about? What is that all about, really? You know, that, and call me old, but that just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah.
That's probably my age. I've really enjoyed my driving still. So it has to be something that you just feel part of the car and you're actually making a difference. I think that's it. You know, I think we talked earlier about, you know, people blasting around in the latest supercar and the technology sorting it out for them, and they're going very quick because the car allows them to go very quick, but it's just flattering their lack of experience, we might say. So for me, to be hanging on, I love going to track days, for example, and I've got a little lightweight 911 SCR, we call it, because it's very lightweight and it's only about 260 horsepower. But I love going to track days in that and hanging on the back of modern stuff.
Oh, it's the best feeling in the world, isn't it? Being in, like, there's nothing that beats being in what should be a slow car, and most people's eyes like a shitty car, and catching up or overtaking a fast car. Yeah. It's like the best thing ever.
You start off at the beginning of the day and there's this funny little black thing's turned up, you know, and there's all these modern cars, and by the end of it, people are looking at it
like,
what is that?
What engine have you got in there? You got 400 horsepower?
Yeah.
No, mate.
And it's not. It's just got, you know, you can carry speed, you've got grip, and that for me is the driving experience.
Cool. Well, I think that's a very good point to wrap it up on.
Yeah, okay.
Well, thanks very much for coming on the podcast.
That's okay. Thanks very much for having us.
It's been good to have you here. Cheers.
Cheers.